Well, let me tell you a little something about me. When it's Saturday night, I need to blow off some steam. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, I've been rolling in since the clock came Monday morning. From the end of the week, I'm about to blow. Breeze walking through the honky tonk like a pack of wolves now. Order up around the shops and it's away we go.
Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Equipment Talk from IRAY, and we're going to go back in and talk to some new looks on some of the equipment and what's going on in the eras. So I've got some guests here today, and it's Colonel Norm, and I also have Colonel Nick Caspers in here too as well, and then myself, I'm Colonel Ray Henry. But again, we're going to talk a little bit about kind of our past and what's kind of coming through and what we've experienced and everything else in the auction world, the auction industry. So we're going to give you just a little bit different touch on the auction world here, ladies and gentlemen. Again, so Norm, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, you know, where you came from and what's going on and what you've seen in the industry, you know, because we talk about things like, okay, what's going on with the equipment world, because that's kind of the world we're in, and we kind of drug you in to that part of it. I know that wasn't always your era, right? I mean, what were you used to selling for types of equipment when you started out? Let's talk about that. And where did you start out, and how did you get into the auction business?
Well, Ray, I'll tell you what, as far as the auction business, I think you know, my dad was an auctioneer. He did a lot of farm auctions back in the past, and I'd be sitting there milking cows by hand, listening to the old man. You know, he's sitting there milking a cow, and he's going 25, but it get 35 before I got so sick and tired of listening to that. I said I'd never be an auctioneer. But as time went on, being a farmer, you know, I kind of liked the auction world. So I went off to auction school in Mason City, Iowa, and got to meet a lot of friends there. You know, made a lot of new friends.
Who was the person that was actually owned the auction? You know, the training for Worldwide Auction Company or Worldwide Auction? Is that worldwide?
Worldwide, correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Paul Seabear.
Oh, it's Paul Seabear.
Paul Seabear, yep,
Really?
yep. Paul Seabear, a great man.
Yep.
And got to made a lot of new friends there. And one of my main friends that I made there probably was Floyd Kiesel. And I met him, and he kind of drugged me into this IRAY thing and took me down to Portage, Wisconsin.
So wait a minute. Now, your dad was an auctioneer, right?
He was an auctioneer, that is
And
correct.
you said he auctioned farm equipment, and did he anything for construction type equipment or anything like that?
Not really construction type, no.
So you didn't have any post hole diggers or nothing there, huh?
I didn't have no post holder. They were all hand.
Okay, you had the hand ones.
The hand ones,
okay.
the hand ones, you betcha.
So what nationality, I mean, what group, I mean, are you are, so...
Amish.
You're Amish, okay.
Amish, correct.
And so the Amish, they do they use power tools now and everything else too?
They do. They've really upgraded from what it used to be. You know, they have battery tools, a lot of battery tools, air tools, a lot of solar systems for electricity, generators, and such.
Oh, you guys are already in the new era with solar systems and everything.
We are, correct.
Wow.
That is right, that is right. And we run generators, a lot of generators for power.
Okay.
But just no electricity off the line.
Do you take electricity into your places as well?
We do.
Okay,
Yep.
so now you're basically on the grid.
We're on the grid.
Okay.
That is right. That is right.
Wow.
So we're getting a brand new solar system put in next month, actually. So
Really?
That'll power everything, basically. It'll power lights in the barn, the garage, my wife's washing machine, laundry, you know.
So you got milkers and everything too now?
Milkers, everything, yep. That is
Wow.
correct. We have skid steers, you know, a lot of heavy equipment we get into. I have my own excavator, skid steers, dozers, stuff like that we do now. So
do you have a driver's license to drive down the road with
we don't.
anything yet?
We do not drive. We do not drive. We can actually drive, like, you know, around the farm or something, anything that doesn't require a driver's license. So we're not on the road.
Okay.
So
you hire a driver to take you around?
we hire a driver, correct.
All right. So how many auctions do you do in, let's say, a month?
Oh, a month we do. It depends on what month you go to. I mean, our main auctions are from February to November. That's our main auction time. So December, January, we kind of slow down a little bit. But I would say on the average, there's probably 15 a month on the average, at least. So, and that's me, and 3 of the boys also sell as well. So,
Nice.
And every one of us kind of has their own little niche that we like to do. I like the heavy equipment, antiques, equipment, you know, in general. And my oldest son, Robert, he's more into horse sales, you know, doing horse auctions. And he gets into some pretty big horse auctions.
thoroughbreds?
Mostly
Racehorses?
standardbreds, racehorses.
Are they racehorses?
Racehorses, yeah.
Okay.
A lot
So
of horses that just came off the track.
They sell 20, 30, 40, 50 grand?
Oh, yeah.
Is that right?
They sell up to 200,000-300,000.
Jeepers, huh? On a horse?
On a horse.
Wow.
That is correct.
So do you guys still run some of these buggies down the road and stuff like that too?
That's all we do when we drive.
Okay.
Going up and down the road, we use buggies, horses and buggies.
Nice, huh?
Yep.
So where do you think that, your moral values as far as, being Amish, I'm not saying, where does that, how does it help you as far as an individual from what you see out there in the world, what's going on? How do you feel that your or I shouldn't say nationality, I should say your heritage, Amish, right? And how do you feel that helps you with family and stuff like that? Do you all have big families?
We all have big families, not like we used to. I mean, there used to be people that had 14, 15, 16 kids,
Yeah.
And I see where that's slowing down a lot. I mean, there's a lot more families out there with anywhere from 3 to 8 kids,
Wow.
So
small families are 8, huh?
Small families are 8. Yeah. Small families are 8. That's right.
Okay.
So I've got 2 daughters and 6 sons. We have 8 kids.
Wow. Nice.
And, when I started this auction business, I never dreamt that the boys would even follow in my footsteps. And it's really, really pretty impressive that, the boys actually want to help do this. And you've met quite a few of the kids. They've been here. They've helped a lot.
Yeah, I tell you.
We've had a lot of fun. We have a lot of stories to tell. I've been here for 12 years now. And it's been a great ride. It has been a great ride.
Well, we enjoy you. You're a good man. So,
well, thank you.
And we like the camaraderie and also the openness. Because sometimes we segregate ourselves somewhat from different types of maybe ethnic groups or whatever you want to say, or however you want to say it. And it's not always easy. And I know that Colonel Nick over here, he's been in the South Dakota area, and I know that you're out in Wisconsin, right?
Central Wisconsin.
Central Wisconsin, and Colonel Nick, you have any Amish around your area and stuff like that too, or
not in the Dakotas? It took me getting down to like Rochester, Minnesota, and down in that corner down there before I ever saw a horse and buggy. And then when I started competing in them competitions, there's some auctioneer competitions out there. They had one in Bloomington, Wisconsin. We stayed in Prairie du Chien, and I remember we come into the barn. And it was standing room only. Them contests are always real full. And the Amish they come out to see the deal. And the sale barn was real high. And you got a real good view of like all the parking lots and everything. And there must have been 50 buggies and horses out there.
Right.
And it was just neat. You don't see that from where I come from at all.
So what you're saying is that you guys didn't have a buggy, you had horses.
Well, I didn't grow up with horses. I didn't grow up with horses. My dad did. My dad was born in 48, and up until I think he got married, and he got married in 69, Grandpa was still using horses, and they'd haul manure out of the barn with a stone boat.
Okay.
Pitch it all on.
Slide her down the road.
Yep, slide her down the road, pinch it all off. Yeah. And Dad grew up knowing hard work too. But no, we had a couple tractors around, but they were farm-alls. And if Dad still feeds the sheep with a Super M farm-all.
Yeah. So whatever got you in the auction business?
My dad was a sheep shearer, and I learned on real quick that I didn't want to do that, which, as a son, you kind of feel bad. You don't want to follow in Dad's footsteps, but just going to the sale barn, in market time when we'd sell lambs or sell calves, and it was just kind of enamored by the auctioneer. You sit there and listen to Dennis Hellwig up at Hub City, and it just always interested me. It kind of, as a kid, I think we were always probably the same way, except you had to listen to it day in and day out. It just enthralled me, and it was always just kind of on the back burner that might be something I want to do down the road. And then when I went to college, and I knew we weren't big enough for me to go home and take over the ranch and raise a family on, so I thought, well, we'll give this a shot. It helps if you have family in the industry.
In what way?
In the way that getting a job. The auctioneering deal. Now, Ray, I got lucky a little bit, but nobody told me that you should probably have family in the industry to kind of give you that leg up. Now, I went to auctioneer school in 2003. I was 19 or right at 20 years old, and they pounded. And I went to Mankato at Continental Auctioneer School. And they just pound in your head, go to the convention, go to that state convention, go to that state convention. So I didn't have 2 pennies to rub together, but I drove up to Brainerd, and that's where I met you. I didn't know a single soul there, and I walked in, and the guys at the front desk there, they go, well, you want to get in the auctioneer contest? I said, no. Not at all. No, I've never sold a sale. Oh, it'll be fun. It's just for fun anyway. And the rookie contest and this and that. I remember I got up there. I was so scared. I locked up. I forgot my numbers. I didn't know where I was at. I might have blacked out for a second, but I stammered through. And then, I don't know, about a half hour later, a guy come walking by me, stuck his hand out, and introduced himself as Ray Henry. Yeah. And that was in January 2004. And I moved up here and worked for you in May of 2004. That first sale in March was my interview, and that was 18 years ago. Yeah, and and the thing about it is, just like myself, when I got in the auction business, it wasn't that I had family that that I wanted to really take after my grandfather. My grandfather, so I'm a third-generation auctioneer, and my grandfather started back in the 1943. And when he did his auctions, he had his sons doing auctions. I mean, he had but they had 13 in the family, of course. So all the boys had to do with something with the auction business. And if they weren't holding stuff up, they were learning how to bid call, and they were going to auction college as well. Sure. So I didn't really get the teaching from that because, as I was growing up, I grew up in a salvage yard. So I worked, and they did the auctions out there. So did I help with some of them? I did when I was young, and I remember times that I was with my grandfather. And the one thing that, that he taught me was that if you like the people and they are good with you, it's easy to work with them. And that's why, just like you guys coming out and learning the equipment part of the business, and again, this is Equipment Talk, so we're going to talk a little bit about, how these guys kind of got into this equipment world and what's happening in the equipment world. But, just even from where you were from and what you did, Norm, you've been, in the auction business, but to be in the real business, you see so many different types of businesses of selling equipment, right?
That is right. That is right. I mean, there is so many different types out there. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. But if you're a people person, this is the thing to do. If you like to meet people and visit and do business with people, get in the auction business. That's right.
So you're gonna cheer people on to go in the auction bid calling, huh?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So what would you give them the first word of advice if you're going to tell them to go in the auction business?
I would say the first thing you do is go to Worldwide College.
Go to college.
Worldwide College of Auctioneering. I sent 3 of my boys there.
Okay.
And I would help pay their way.
You'd help pay the way even?
I'd help pay the way, definitely.
Well, I tell you, he's a pretty giving feller, ain't he?
Darn right.
That's how much I think of Worldwide College of Auctioneering. When I went there, they told me, you're going to be coming home and your phone's going to be ringing off the hook, and this and that and everything else. Well, it's probably not quite kind of like Nick just got done telling us. It's nice to have family where you can kind of get in with the business, but people like Ray Henry, it's just he kind of took you under his arm and took off from there, So that was a blessing. It was definitely a blessing.
Yeah. So. And when I met you, I had Floyd Kiesel. He was working for us on a basis, and he was getting equipment. I met him. Oh, I'll tell you what, that was a trip. You know what he did? He sent me a tape, and he wasn't real. I mean, he just started, right? But he made himself a CD, and I thought, boy, that guy's got some,
brass,
real brass on him. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Because Floyd wasn't, no great, but I thought, golly, if that guy's got that kind of audacity to turn around and send it to a company and say, hey, I'd like to come work for you, I thought, I better go take a look at this feller, Well, golly, if I would have known that it was the weather it was to go see him. I went out to Portage, Wisconsin to meet with him, and he knew every food joint in Wisconsin. I mean, because he drove trucks, so, he knew everything. And it was midst of the winter, and we had an ice storm, and we drove out there. Normally take us about 5.5 hours to get there. And it took us a whole 9 hours to get there because we couldn't do over that 35, 40 miles an hour. And I took my son with as well, David, and he was learning how to drive on ice as well. And I put him behind the wheel. And boy, I'll tell you what, when guys coming off the ramp and they went right off the ramp into the ditch, he was like, whoa, So, they're all life experiences, right? And that's what we're going through as not only as an auction company or a business, but as an industry. And that industry is that, what's the difference between somebody that, wants to go out and work in a ditch with a shovel, or somebody that wants to run a piece of equipment, or somebody wants to sell that equipment, or somebody wants to understand. You got to understand what you're working with and who you're working for. I mean, you got to know where their where your qualities are, where they're not. What do you like doing, right? Right. And I guess for me to get into the equipment world, mine was more in the fashion that I loved building stuff. I love seeing things move forward, and that's why I always say that this equipment talk. The equipment talk is about embracing technology. It's about embracing your future, not the past. You can take the past as a learning experience and maybe as a teaching experience for the people that you're around. But when it comes to embracing technology, I mean, an Amish feller here on a mic, and and he's out there bid calling to the world, you know what I mean? Right. To me, it's phenomenal. It's really phenomenal. It's a great thing to see. It's it's something that I have a high respect for you guys, just as much as you may have for the industry or for other people that are in the industry. But I respect you guys, and I respect you for the fact that you're willing to step out of your comfort zone. You're willing to take advice, or maybe even a little bit of a butt chewing sometimes, because you did that wrong, and we all go through that. But it's how you learn. It's how you learn. That's right. How you learn. Right. So,
well, and I've got to jump in here for just a second because, Ray, I've been around you for going on 20 years now, and you come from a mechanical background, and like you said, you grew up in a salvage yard. Mm-hmm. So you started out, and I know a little bit of your history, and I'll fill a few people in, but, you were an engine builder, and you were the same way in that industry that you're in this industry. Is you're innovative. You're always looking forward. You're always looking, what's the next thing? What's, not what's 6 months from now, what's 10 years from now. Yeah. We just talked about that the other day. We're right around the corner from the year 3000. It's not that darn far away. Right. And, and that's what I respect about you is that you're always looking forward, and you got ideas that were almost too far ahead of you. You didn't have anybody that was around you that you had ideas that were, I'll say it right on the air. I don't care. That you have an idea that could have changed the world, and I think in a way better way, and it still can. And you're going to get that built, and it's going to be a huge splash for equipment, for everything, for the auction industry especially. And when we were talking about the different types of auction venues of different sales you can sell, Norm hit it on the head when there's so many. There's equipment, there's livestock, there's estates, there's consignments. Consignment sales, I don't think anybody knows how tough consignment sales are. You and I talked about it a couple times. If you want to really test your fortitude in this industry, take on the consignment sale portion of it. Because if you do an estate sale and you got one family you have to make happy that day, so take on a consignment sale. What do we have? 71 consigners? That's 71 different people we got to make, happy on the seller's side, and we got, how many buyers to make happy, and that's our job is to get, a fair market value price for a piece of equipment where you have a buyer that's happy with the price that he paid and a seller with happy with the price that he got.
And that's why I always say that you bring buyers and sellers together.
Absolutely.
That's right.
And and thank you, Nick, for that. But the one thing that I do look at is that if we can look at how good we can be in our industry and give them our best, who's going to beat you? Have you ever looked at a person that, was really good at something, and then you get somebody that has great desire? Yeah. The desire and good at something, the guy with the desire is going to go out there and he's going to nail on you until you go down. And when you go down, he's going to keep nailing. He don't stop, because he has that desire. And mine came from, looking at my grandfather back as a little boy, and it put it in there to me that, I would like to be like him. He was really liked. He was innovative as well, and wanted to move forward. And I kind of see that with you too, Norm. That, you're moving forward with the, being Amish. It's you gotta push the envelope a little bit, especially, you have people that you have to actually get approved from in a lot of areas, right?
Oh, correct. Oh, correct, definitely.
And how has that kind of been for you for a battle? Because we talk about moving forward with technology. You know, phones are technology for you guys. And how is that working with, you know, not only you, but with your kids?
Well, you know, we all kind of have our same thing, you know. We don't do smartphones. We try to stay away from that. The church really looks down on smartphones for us to use.
And why do they look down on smartphones?
Technology, that you're just carrying technology, the internet. You're carrying the internet right with you. Now, we can use a smartphone. We can get on a smartphone and do what we need to do. They just don't want us to have a smartphone with us 24/7. They just don't think it's good. So the rules and regulations, that's what we do. I carry a flip phone, the kids carry a flip phone, and we get along right well with that.
So you watched Star Trek as a kid or anything?
We never did. To this day, I'm not even sure what Star Trek is. But,
Beat me up, Scotty.
Yeah, it's a great world to live in. I like my family life, you know. It's a little slower paced, and I value that a lot.
Yeah.
So
I miss it.
I'll bet. You know,
I honestly do. I mean, the world moves so fast today.
Well, you know, we all get pressured, right?
Yeah.
And
with horse and buggy, you know, it just keeps us closer. I mean, Robert, my oldest son, he lives 2 miles from my house. Michael just bought a farm right up the road from me, you know, and my daughter's right there close to home. And it really keeps us together a lot more, I think.
Okay.
But, you know, then with smartphones, it's so much easier just to look up something and boom, boom, you know, stuff that we really don't need to look at, you know.
Oh.
So with flip phones, you can text, you can talk, you can do whatever you need to do. And obviously, we do a lot of email and stuff like that. Like my driver's got a tablet, or I can use his phone, do whatever I need to do, you know. If we want to buy something online.
So you use tablets too?
We use tablets. We're not allowed to own tablets, but if, you know, the driver's got one or something, we can do that.
Sure.
So.
Well, just about any family you see today, I mean, everybody's glued to their phone.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that core family values. I mean, everybody tries to teach core family values, but if you don't have that distraction, your only outlet is that. I mean, that family.
That's right.
Get, you know, camaraderie.
So, you know, aside from that, so when you practice your bid calling and everything else, what kind of I mean, do you go away from everybody else? Are you doing it around people, or how are you you know, I guess honing in on your skills?
Well, as far as my skills, you know, I didn't have any skills at all when I went to Worldwide, other than what
I thought your dad was an auctioneer.
Other than what I learned from my old man, and he was old school.
Okay.
He was very old school. But I picked up some of that. But, you know, when you go to auction school, they have all these instructors in there. One guy tells you this, one guy tells you that. You know, you try to follow one, kind of pick out what you like, what you're comfortable with. And probably one of the most respected instructors I had was Matt Lowry. That's kind of where I picked it up. After I listened to Matt Lowry, talked to Matt Lowry, it was like, this is the road I want to go down, you know. Okay. And there was a lot of good instructors there, don't get me wrong. But that's kind of where I based off of, you know. I called Matt a lot, you know. I just visit with him, Matt, what should I do here, what should I do there, you know, and he'd try to, you know, kind of get me to
coach
go down.
Along?
Coach me along, correct, that's right.
So what made you really interested in even coming and working for us with IRAY? What kind of gave you that desire to come back? Because, I mean, it's been, what, 12 years?
12 years.
Okay.
12 years. So
12 years, I watched your kids. I mean, golly, you'd bring them along, and you had your wife one time, and we had our food shack and stuff. You put them right in there. Well, they can go to work. And she had a little baby in her arms, and she's feeding people and taking money. It was kind of cute. But, you know, it was like you guys came from the 1800s, and we're in here in the 1900s, you know what I mean? And it was kind of cute and kind of cool. But them boys, you taught them right from, you know, I don't know, they're maybe 7, 8, 9 years old, and you had them out there taking bids and doing, you said, it's okay to be out here, isn't it? I said, yeah, it should be all right, you know? I mean, if we were great...
Still family run?
We're family run,
yeah,
you know?
Absolutely.
I mean, if we were a great big corporation where... You know, we had worried about the liability, and we had stockholders and all this. It changed things a little. You know, we can be more personable with not only our clients that we sell with, but the people that work with us. Sure. And we can take them, you know, those key values that we can keep them as core values.
Correct. Yeah.
So, no, I really thought, so what really gave you the interest in working with IRAY?
Well, Floyd Kiesel, you know, I just got out of Worldwide, and Floyd Kiesel called me one day, and he said, you know, IRAY could use a driver today to drive stuff across the ramp.
Okay.
And I'm like, geez, what is this all about? I don't think I'd ever drove like a Caterpillar or Dozer or anything, And here Floyd brings me into this auction, and I was so impressed. Colonel Ray and Colonel Nick were selling that day, and I was like, man, if I could just be up there selling, that would just be the thing I wanted to do. So we got done driving equipment, selling attachments, and doing whatever. And I just remember Ray telling me, he said, let's hear you do some bid calling. He said, you're pretty sharp out there in the ring. I'm like, well, that's a good thing,
Yeah.
So that's kind of what kept me coming back. I know you called me. We went out to South Dakota. We did sales here in Minnesota, Wisconsin, kind of all over. And the more I did, the more interested I got in them, and the more I took an interest in equipment and the values of equipment.
Oh, you started buying some, huh?
I actually started buying a few items here and there, and had my own skid steer. It just kind of one thing led to another. Okay. And today I'm just like Jack. When I hear IRAY, it's like hit the road.
Let's go get them, huh?
Let's go get them. So,
I know you haven't missed too many sales. I'll tell you that much.
I have not.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that.
There is now and then we have like a big auction, like the 3-day auction I was telling you about in September. I won't be able to make that, but I try to work around those as much as I can.
Yeah, because you got the boys and they can handle some of it too. And
we do, but we run 4 to 5 rings there on those days, so
yeah.
it's pretty tough.
So you guys use the internet at all?
We don't use the internet at all. No.
So can't use a phone?
We can use the phone, to look up something or do whatever, but. Other than that, we just.
How do you think that your world's going to change that way? Because internet, right? I mean, we talked about that a little bit. Colonel Nick, that we were actually you were in South Dakota, and you first time did it a year?
A year ago. It's the first time we did one in 60 years. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was a farm type deal, and that was out in South Dakota.
Consignment sale.
Right. And so how do you feel that as far as in your world, as far as the internet coming into that and being able to call or bid call online for your business? I know you're here for us. And we do it but because, we hire you on to do that, right? Mm-hmm. So how do you feel about that in time?
I think honestly the internet is a good thing. As far as being online, bid calling online, live simulcast, I think it's the greatest thing ever, probably, to bring your buyer and seller together. As time goes on, I think we're going to see more and more of that coming into the Amish community, Cool. The flip phones are kind of going by the wayside. We have no options here pretty soon. So, and I know I talked to the elders there in church, and I said, how about this, live online stuff, if we want to do this or that? He said, well, then you just partner up with somebody.
Yeah.
And they could do it for
So
you.
you'll figure it out either way.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It'll all be great.
Well, we're gonna wrap this up here in a few minutes, but I just want to first and second of all, Nick, we kind of talked about not only you being out in the industry and everything else, and I know you're coming back to work with IRAY just maybe a little bit more on the full-time deal, and to go out and get equipment. And what do you think that some of the main attributes are going to be for you to be better at getting equipment for IRAY or for your consigners?
I think awareness.
Understanding.
Awareness of the company, of what we stand for, what we do, the market that we can provide, the global marketplace that we can bring to these guys. There's Ray, you've been here for going on 25 years, right?
Well, actually, it's 23 years.
23 years that you've been over here, and you've gotten yourself a very good client base, and you've touched in South Dakota, Iowa, Wisconsin. I remember I was coming over here. You had a couple spots down there, and it's just getting, the IRAY name I think was out in South Dakota for a while, and then I think they, for whatever reason, you guys pulled back a little bit, or you lost your guy out there, or whatever. And then I'm going to try to revamp that up for you guys. It's just bringing that name back, and because Big Iron has moved in. This is the most competitive industry, not the most competitive industry in the country or anything like that, but we are in a very, very competitive industry with a lot of competition out there. Mm-hmm. The internet has been a great thing for bringing a new group of buyers to our sellers, but we're not the only ones doing it. You got Ritchie Brothers, you got Big Iron, you got Purple Wave, you got IRAY, you got, there's not just one or two companies doing this. There's a dozen. Yeah. And you have to bring something different to the table. When you sit down with a client, they're going to look at you and go, well, what do you do different than these guys?
Right.
And like we touched on before, one of our main deals is we're not so corporate structured that, we're just constrained to that, and you're just a number to us, and, I'm here.
We're going to take care of you.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. We're going to take care of you, and you're not just a number to us. You're not just a stop, on the road. We, remember your birthday, and I mean things like that. It's a personable nature, and we do have the global market. I mean, we're competitive with any auction company out there on our market, and we can prove it. So it's just getting back out there and getting in front of everybody and reminding them what we are capable of doing for them, and that if something goes awry or something like that, we're not just going to go, well, read your contract. No, you're going to stop in and go, okay, what do we got to do? I mean, what do you need, or what are your needs here?
Sure.
And then we'll service that, as we go.
Well, guys, I want to thank you both for coming out here today. Is there anything else you'd like to tell our podcast, world today? But I do want to thank you for taking the time and for taking this opportunity, because I know we had that auction today. Was there anything special? I want to hear about one special thing that you've seen today that you thought was it was kind of cool, that you sold online, and that it brought, the money that you felt was maybe over wherever you're at, and what helped you do that? If you each give me one of those things, then we're going to end this here in just a minute.
Well, I don't know. I can't say there's just one special thing. There was a lot of items that I thought were fun. They were fast. They were furious. I mean, the crowd was there. One thing I'd like to add to this, Ray, is, when we started this internet business here at IRAY, we had a lot of times where the internet would go down or this or that. We've improved so much. The internet is so fast. It's absolutely phenomenal. But as of today, vehicles sold extremely well. Absolutely. Attachments were good. Everything I sold was, I thought, good. Very good.
The new stuff was bringing good money yet?
New stuff was bringing very good.
A lot of good new attachments you were selling today. What do you think, Colonel Nick?
I'm going to piggyback off that just a little bit and say, when you called me and said that you were going to online only, that you were not going to have a public auction anymore, I thought you were crazy.
Maybe I am.
I honestly, I thought, I don't know if that'll work. As auctioneers, we have or hone a certain set of skills to help us do what we do, just like everybody else, right? One of our main tools is reading body language, looking at people, knowing if they got a little money left to go or if they're absolutely done. And by doing this, it took that tool completely away. And that was kind of one of my main tools that I'd honed in on, and I perfected a little bit. And I thought, Ray's going to take this away from us. I got to sell to a computer screen. And it works. It not only works, it works very well.
Do you feel that it's less cumbersome, and do you feel you have more control over what you're doing versus what somebody else is trying to do with you?
Yes, and when you have a crowd of people, there's obviously a lot.
There's some that are just going to try to mess the deal up a little bit.
You're always going to have your hecklers. Them guys love to show up and just give you a hard time. But you think about back when we were doing it, the old way. Look at all the moving parts.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, dealing with equipment, we had to line up, 8 or 9 different drivers. I mean, the
at one time, I'd have 54 people working.
Yeah, 54 people working one sale.
Yep.
And then it's just a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
And we managed to take that away, and by golly, believe it or not, I mean, even through that computer screen, you can kind of tell when them guys are done and when they're not. Otherwise you can sit there and go on. And I go, and I'm thinking when we first started, how are we going to know when this deal's, when to say sold, really?
Right.
But you get a feel for it. Just like anything else, and when it works very well, and the crowd is always there because they can, on a hot day, they don't have to come out here and sweat with us, and
they can use their phone.
They can use their phone. They can bid right from their phone. So it's every time I come over here and sell, that's probably still the biggest, kind of wow factor for me is we're sitting there selling to a computer screen and to a global set of buyers, and it works very, very well.
Well, thank you, Norm. Thank you, Colonel Nick.
Thank you, Ray.
And again, we want to thank you from IRAY Companies and IRAY Auctions and actually IRAY Podcasts for coming out here today and or listening to us today and listen to our experience in the auction industry and also in the equipment industry. So again, Ray Henry from IRAY signing out. Thank you.